Motivation is not enough. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why, if you're relying on motivation, that is a weakness that you need to overcome. For a long time, I used to rely on emotion. I would get a lot of my work done in a small period of time, and then the rest of the time, I wouldn't do anything. I would spend that time procrastinating, wasting time, not doing anything productive. And the biggest reason why motivation is not enough is because motivation is an emotion. Fundamentally, if we're trying to accomplish something, if we're trying to get something done, and our biggest strength, the biggest thing that's going to determine whether we do something or not, is an emotion, we're cooked. We're just done for. Because emotions are fleeting. Pretty much no one has an emotion that they have at all times. Emotions change throughout the day. If I told you in 2 months' time, you're going to have to fight someone. You're going to have to fight this person to the death. Your life depends on it. And it gets to fight day and you say, how is this guy's training? Like, was he training well? Did he look good? And I told you, well, he trained well when he was motivated. He trained well when he wanted to. You're going to laugh at me and say, well, this is an easy win. I'm comfortable. But if I told you this guy worked regardless of how he felt, he got up every day regardless of how he felt, he trained every day regardless of how he felt, you would be bricking it. You would be like, I'm going to die. This guy's going to kill me. Because they're able to work because he was able to work without emotion. He was able to make decisions and act despite his emotion, not because of it. If you're someone that relies on motivation to get anything done, you are going to be unreliable. You're going to be inconsistent, and therefore your results will be unreliable. Your results will be inconsistent. If we want to accomplish something for sure, if we want to guarantee success, then we have to increase the reliability. We have to reduce the risk involved in achieving that. And the biggest risk, the number one risk, is going to be your emotions. If you are dictated by your emotions, that is just increase the risk and reduce the chances of you succeeding, of you accomplishing anything so significantly. So what typically happens when we don't have motivation? What happens when we lack that motivation? Well, most likely what happens is we have a goal, we have an objective to do task A. Let's use the example of going for a run. Let's say we have the goal of we want to go for a run. If we are not motivated, if we're not disciplined, we're going to find something that we can do that triggers our brain to receive dopamine that is a little easier to do than what we're currently doing. For most of us right now, that'd be something like scrolling social media on our phone, watching TV, playing video games. There's probably a lot of things that we have in our life right now that are giving us dopamine, that are not helping us accomplish our goals, and they're very easy to do. They're very low effort tasks that we can do. So what we want to do is we want to make our goals the most enjoyable thing that we do. We want it to be the thing that releases the most dopamine, the thing that releases the most stimulation that we look forward to doing and we enjoy doing the most. If you guys are enjoying this content, if you want to learn more, I have a completely free course on how to dopamine detox, how to rewire your brain to love working hard. You can check that out at school.com/modernmonk. I'll leave a link in the description below. Otherwise, keep enjoying the video. So how exactly do we make trying to achieve our goals, working towards our goals, the most enjoyable thing in our lives? That seems pretty difficult, near impossible. Well, for most of us, that is impossible under our current circumstances. See, right now, there's probably 10 things that you do in your day that are more enjoyable, that receive more dopamine than working towards your goals. For example, if you're the average person, you probably wake up and the first thing you do is you get on your phone. Maybe you're scrolling social media. Maybe you're checking the news. Maybe you're watching TikTok. You've probably done 3 or 4 things within the first 30 minutes of waking up that have provided your brain with more dopamine, with more stimulation than working towards your goals. Then let's say you move to playing some video games. Maybe towards the end of the day, you start watching some television. That's another few things. So now there's maybe 5 or 6 things in your day that have produced dopamine but haven't moved you towards your goals. Then you can throw some junk food into the mix, a bunch of different things. Now you have a day packed with things that provide you stimulation, provide you dopamine, but don't move you towards your goals. If you looked at a hierarchy of a list of the things that provided you the most dopamine throughout the day, that run, going for the run, that's probably bottom of the list. That's probably the least enjoyable thing you did throughout the day? What happens if going for that run, if whatever it is that is moving you towards your goal was the highest dopamine thing that you did throughout your day? What if it was the number one thing that provided you the most dopamine, the most stimulation? Well, you wouldn't really need motivation, would you? Because by default, that would be the most enjoyable thing you could do. You wouldn't require a whole lot of motivation. You wouldn't require a whole lot of any emotion to do it. Because theoretically, you could be impulsive. You could be an impulsive person and you will do the thing that moves you towards your goals, because you know that is the thing in my life that provides me with the most stimulation. So the simple ability of removing everything that provides your brain with huge amounts of dopamine but doesn't move you towards your goals in any way literally makes it so that you can be impulsive. You can be an impulsive person, and by being impulsive, you do something that moves you towards your goals. You don't need motivation. You don't need to be happy. You don't need any of these emotions. It's just the best thing you do. It's just the most enjoyable thing you do in your day. No motivation required. It's just the best thing you do. So how do we get to this point? How do we get to the point where we don't need motivation? We don't actually need any emotion for doing the hard thing, doing the thing that moves us towards our goals to be the best thing in our lives, the highest, most stimulating, most enjoyable thing? Well, we have to remove everything that is providing us that stimulation, that's providing us that dopamine, but not moving us towards our goals. If we eliminated TikTok, if we eliminated social media, if we eliminated video games, if we eliminated TV, that leaves you with not a whole lot of things that are providing you with stimulation anymore. The few things that do provide you with stimulation, that do provide you with dopamine, are things that move you towards your goals. If I told you you have two options right now, you can either go for a run, or you can stare at a blank wall for 2 hours, you would go for a run. Unless you really, really, really hated running, you would go for a run because it is more enjoyable. It is a more enjoyable alternative. The issue is, if you give yourself a lot of alternatives that are more enjoyable than what you're trying to do, it's very difficult. It requires motivation. It actually requires motivation to do it. We want to get to a point where you don't need that motivation. And to get to that point, we need to start removing these things. We need to start removing the things that provide us with stimulation, provide us with dopamine, get them out of our lives. And by doing this, we will have created discipline, structure, and routine that will allow us to get wherever we want to go. We're now in a position where we only do things that move us towards our goal because we love doing it, because it is the most enjoyable thing we can do. It's really a simple fact of rewiring your brain to stop thinking, how can we grab these quick fixes, these quick hits, and how can we start enjoying doing difficult things? And it's a very simple process. It's not easy. It's not easy by any means, but it is certainly simple. So if we have this discipline, if we have this structure in our lives that facilitates our growth, that only allows us to do things that move us forward, we're going to be unstoppable. If you combine that with the great multiplier in life, if you combine that with consistency, you will achieve insane things. It's not about doing this for a few days or a few weeks, but if you can do this for a few months, for a few years, you will be totally unstoppable. Because the amount of things that you've done in those 2 years will compound. Your actions will compound over time. And if those actions were scrolling social media, if those actions were playing video games, then that will compound over time. Just as if all your actions, if everything you did was just moving towards your goals, was just doing the difficult thing, that will also compound over time. So if we instill this discipline in place, we throw motivation out the window and we say, I don't need to worry about that. I don't use motivation. That is not my fuel for success. My fuel for success is the discipline I have, the structure I have in place that only allows me to move towards my goals. You are going to achieve that with certainty because there's not going to be any risk involved in your emotion. You're not a rocking ship that moves around with changes in the currents. You are held in place. You are constant, you're consistent, and that compounding effect over time will produce insane results. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please please channel. So if you want to be an OG, then subscribe would be much appreciated. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.